Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to this Friday morning's Chaitanya Charitamrita class as a special lead up to Gaur Purnim, which is coming closer very quickly. Happy for us. We're looking forward to that. On Sunday, we will have the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. And today, we're happy to be joined by Kartik Chandra Prabhu, who will speak on the Adi Leela 8:1 to 4 and give us some interesting katha about Panchatattva. So thank you very much, Prabhu, for joining us. And please, you can take it over from here. You're still on mute, so maybe you can unmute yourself. I make you
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yes, this is perfectly fine.
Okay, good.
Stage is yours, Prabhu. Thank you so much. We will share the screen.
Thank you. So today we're discussing from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 17. I'm very grateful to all of you for allowing me to share some katha on the Panchatattva. The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya was a book that Srila Prabhupada wrote early on as a synopsis of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I chose to speak on these verses, which I'll just bring up. So let us chant the verses and then we'll begin. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaura Chandra, Jaya Jaya Paramananda Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Jaya Advaita Acharya Kripa Moya, Jaya Jaya Gadadhara Pandit Mahashaya, Jaya Jaya Shri Vasadi Jata Bhakta Gana, Pranatha Hoiya Vando Shabara Charana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srivas Thakur and all the other devotees of the Lord. I fall down to offer them respect. I worship their lotus feet. Purport: Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami teaches us first to offer respect to the Panchatattva, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhara Prabhu, and Srivas Prabhu, and other devotees. We must strictly follow the principle of offering our respects to the Panchatattva as summarized in the mantra Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. At the beginning of every function and preaching, especially before chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We must chant the Panchatattva's names and offer our respects to them. Om Adnyanti Marandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is a beautiful section of the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 17. And the title of the chapter is Lord Chaitanya, the Original Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada begins the chapter by describing the Panchatattva and how the supremely powerful Lord Krishna is manifest in 5 different potencies, he says. So this is a unique feature of our philosophy, where the Panchatattva and the definition of Panchatattva is provided in a way that it all together, 5 all together, unify as one supreme person. So Srila Prabhupada has given his purports, and he has really beautifully explained how Panchatattva are actually not different from each other. And Krishna is one, but he expands into these 5 forms. So Srila Prabhupada's purports broadly follow almost verbatim, they follow the Anubhashya, which is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary, and also Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, which is the commentary of Bhaktivedanta Thakur on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada's commentaries follows these two broadly, almost verbatim in many places, especially in these chapters which describe about the Panchatattva. So we see that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has right at the beginning in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 1, verse number 14, he prays to the Panchatattva right at the beginning of beginning his work. He says, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam, Bhaktarupa Swarupakam, Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam, Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. And interestingly, that Kavi Karnapur, in his book Gaur Ganodesh Deepika, in verse number 9 and 10, he attributes this verse of Panchatattva Pranam to Swarup Damodar. Now we know Swarup Damodar is not different from Vishakha Devi in the spiritual world. So this verse actually unpacks the personality of Krishna. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam. Krishna has got 5 tattvas. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam. First, Bhakta Rupa. Krishna is Bhakta Rupa. So one may ask, well, how is Krishna Bhakta Rupa? Bhakta means devotee, Rupa means form. So we see that when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining the external purpose of Mahaprabhu's appearance, he says in Adi Leela chapter 3 verse 20, Apani korimu bhakta bhava angikare, apani achari bhakti shikhaimu shabare, apani korimu bhakta bhava, apani korimu bhakta bhava. I will accept the mood of a devotee. Why? By accepting the mood of devotee, I will exemplify what a devotee should be like, so that others can learn from my example. So this is the meaning of Bhakta Rupa, the first of the Panchatattva, and Bhakta Rupa here is Mahaprabhu himself, is Krishna himself, who has appeared in the form of a devotee. Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam. Swarupa, Bhakta Swarupa is the second personality. So who is Bhakta Swarupa? Bhakta Swarupa here means, if Bhakta Rupa means Mahaprabhu, then who is the Swarupa expansion of Mahaprabhu? Who is the Swarupa expansion of Krishna? It is Balaram. And hence, Swarupa, Bhakta Swarupa means Balaram. Bhakta Avatara. Now if Bhakta means Krishna, then who is Krishna Avatara? Krishna Avatara is Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. Ontologically, Sadashiva and Mahavishnu are the same, and also different at the same time. If we read the commentaries, especially the Sanskrit commentaries of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we find out that sometimes even the glance of Mahavishnu is considered to be Sadashiva. Otherwise, Mahavishnu himself is also sometimes identified as Sadashiva. So this Sadashiva and Mahavishnu is Avatara of Krishna. So Bhakta Avatara is the third category. Fourth, Bhakta Akhya. Akhya means to be known. Akhya means to be known. Bhakta Akhya means known as devotees. Who's known as devotees? There are so many devotees. From Brahma, we begin from Brahma, down up to the lowest planetary system we have is Patala Loka. Even there is devotee, Yamaraj. So Yamaraj, from Brahma up to Yamaraj, there are devotees all throughout. And these devotees, they are present through all the planetary systems, including on Earth. And that is the fourth category, the pure devotees of the Lord. Brahma, Yamaraj, they're all pure devotees. And Namami Bhakta Shaktikam, fifth, Bhakta Shakti. Bhakta here again means not ordinary devotee, but here Bhakta means the Bhakta Rupa, the Supreme Person. So his Shakti, who is his Shakti? His Shakti, he has three Shaktis. Well, many Shaktis. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate, the Upanishads are saying. So there are many Shaktis, but principal three Shaktis, and of which the potency that really is identified as the Antaranga Shakti is the Ladini Shakti of the Lord, which is the fifth Tattva in the Pancha Tattva. These five Tattvas, they all are expansions of Krishna himself. Krishna himself, Bhaktarupa, Swarupa, his immediate expansion, Balaram, his avtaras, and the jivas who are devotees, and the Ladini Shakti. This is the complete Supreme Person. So in a sense, because everyone is united in purpose, so they are all considered to be equal or one. Of course, they are not one in the sense of pure oneness, but they are one in the sense of purpose. So we see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes about the Panchatattva, and he explains what these Panchatattva are and what the purpose is of Panchatattva. So we can learn from various aspects why these Panchatattva, five elements, five potencies of the Supreme are one, and why do they come together, and who they are. So in Adi Leela, chapter 7, verse number 11, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Krishna madhuryera eka adbhuta svabhava apana asvyadite Krishna kore bhakta bhava. For tasting his own love, for tasting his own sweetness, he appears as a devotee. So if we think about it, all aspects of Krishna are included in this. His name, his form, his pastimes, his deities are all included in this first form, which is Lord Chaitanya. In the second form, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues. He says, Ithe bhakta bhava dhare Chaitanya Gosai bhakta swarupa tara Nityananda bhai. Bhakta swarupa is Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu he is the bhai, he is the brother, and he is Lord Balram. He is also Ananta Shesha. Nityananda Prabhu is also the original spiritual master. So Mahaprabhu includes all the features of the Supreme: name, form, qualities, pastimes. Bhakta Swarupa, the second feature of the Panchatattva, includes the spiritual master and all the potencies that facilitate the jiva's interaction with Krishna. Actually, why Nityananda Prabhu is spiritual master, representation of spiritual master? Spiritual master connects the jiva to the Supreme Lord. And it is Nityananda Prabhu or Balaram who facilitates the pastimes of the Lord, facilitates by expanding himself as the dham, expanding himself as the paraphernalia, That is how the devotees interact with the Lord. And that is why the Guru does the same duty of connecting the jiva to the Supreme Lord. So, the second Panchatattva, Bhakta Swarupa, is Nityananda. Third, Bhakta Avtara Tara Acharya Gosai, Ei Tina Tattva Sabe Prabhu Kori Gai. Bhakta Avatara, the incarnation of the Supreme Lord as Mahavishnu, as Sadashiva, is Advaita Acharya, Acharya Gosai. Advaita Acharya appeared as the Avatara of the Lord, Mahavishnu or Sadashiva. And with this, all other incarnations are included. By saying Mahavishnu, of course, by saying the Father, the sons are included. If somebody invites someone for wedding or some occasion, they say Mr. Patel and family. So all family is included when you say Mr. Patel. Similarly, Mahavishnu includes all the other expansions that come in the material world. So all these expansions, they are also directly connected with the Supreme Lord. Then he says, Shrivasadi Jata Koti Bhakta Gana Shuddha Bhakta Tattva Madhye Tashabara Ganana. So amongst millions and millions of devotees, Shrivas Pandit was the exemplification of a devotee. He is Narad Muni. And he is a Shuddha Bhakta, a pure devotee. And there are millions of such Shuddha Bhaktas. They are all Jivatmas. They are all living entities, but they are also marginal potency of the Lord. So in that sense, they are also Lord, because they are the marginal potency of the Lord. So the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead should include the Jivas also, because they are also fractions of the Supreme Lord, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So Narada, Prahlad, Bali Maharaj, they are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And finally, Gadadhara Panditadi Prabhura Shakti Avatar Antaranga Bhakta Kori Ganana Jahara. Antaranga Bhakta, confidential devotee. Srila Prabhupada gives us a very nice meaning. He says there is pure devotees and there are confidential devotees. Confidential devotees are also pure devotees. Pure devotees can become confidential devotees. Who are confidential devotees? Devotees that are already in Vraj, in Mathura, in Dwarka, in Ayodhya, in all of these dham, they are all pure confidential devotees, those who are eternally serving, like Hanuman, like Lalita Vishakha Devi, like Ashtashakhis, like Nanda Maharaj, like Mother Yashoda. They are all eternal associates. So they are Antaranga Bhakta. They are internal potency. They are expansion of the internal potency. So they are exemplified by Gadadhara Panditati Adi Prabhur Shakti Avatar. So Gadadhar Pandit is the Shakti Avatar, Bhakta Shaktikam. So this is the explanation. Now, if we think about it, another way of looking at this is Mahaprabhu, who signifies the Lord's name, form, pastimes, deities, everything, complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is an offense to offend the Supreme Lord, His name, His form, His pastimes, His deity forms. It's an offense. So the offense towards, on the path of bhakti, the offenses are also in these 5 categories of the Panchatattva. First, on the category of the Lord, His form, name, pastimes, deities, etc. Second, Nityananda Prabhu, spiritual master, offense against the spiritual master is a grave offense. Third, incarnations, Advaita Acharya, Bhakta Avtara, any incarnation of the Lord. And by incarnations, it means also the scriptural incarnation of the Lord, because the Shabda Pramana, the words of the Lord, are also the Lord's himself. So the scriptural incarnation of the Lord. So all the scriptures are also included in that. And we have, that is why Advaita Acharya, he's known as Acharya, because he is the learned personality of scripture, certainly, because all the scriptures emanate from his exhaling. So he's, Advaita Acharya is Acharya, Mahashai. So offense against scriptures, offense against incarnations, offenses against even those who are lower incarnations. What are lower incarnations? These are devatas who have been instituted for the purpose of running the show, running the creation. Even one should not offend the devatas. One should recognize them in their position. So all expansions are included by saying Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. So, and then next is Shuddha Bhakta Tattva, which is Shrivasadi. So offense towards the devotees is also one of the gravest offense. And finally, you have Gadar Pandit and the internal associates, confidential associates. So it is also an offense to offend any of the confidential associates of the Lord, because they exemplify the highest form of bhakti. So we see that these 5 features have been identified by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And why do these 5 features have to appear together? Of course, when a king goes somewhere, the retinue follows, the following, everyone follows, the ministers follow, the soldiers follow, there are horses and horsemen, and there are elephants and mahouts, and there are, foot soldiers, everyone follows. There is, the king doesn't go alone. So similarly, that's one reason. But then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has expanded, and he says in Adi Leela, again, chapter 7, verse 18, 19, 20, 21, he gives the answer. Why Panchatattva come together? 5 come together. Jashabalaya Prabhura Nitya Bihara. For Nitya Bihara, he is given 4 reasons for the Panchatattva to appear together. Reason number 1, Nitya Vihara. Eternally they are together. Eternally they want to have the pleasure, pastimes together. So for the Lord to experience pleasure, for the Lord, the Supreme Lord, to be able to interact with someone who understands his mood, he needs his associates. And that is why these other 4, they appear with him. Jashabalaya Prabhu Kirtana Prachara. Reason number 2, Panchatattva appear together because they all 5 together expand the Kirtan Prachar of the Lord. Reason number 3, Jashabaloya Korein Prema Swadana. Together they experience and taste the loving exchange with each other. And 4th reason, Jashabalaya Dana Kore Prema Dhana. They together distribute the love of Godhead to everyone. So Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these are Vishnu Tattvas, 3. And the other 2 are Shakti Tattvas. They together, Gadadhar Pandit and Srivas Thakur, they are Shakti Tattva representations. They all together form complete conception of Supreme. The entire Bhagavatam philosophy is in 5. So in this description of this chapter, our Srila Prabhupada has explained how these 5 are one. Say Pancha Tattva Mili Prithvi Ashiya. These 5 came to earth together. Purva Prema Bhandare Mudra Udai Ugadiya. The treasure chest of love of Godhead was locked, and these 5 unlocked it together. Panche Mili Lute Prema Kore Aswadana. 5 together, they distribute love and they taste love. Jata Jata Piye Trishna Bodhe Anukshana. And whoever tasted this love, their love only increased more and more. So we find that Mahaprabhu's path is path of love, distribution of love. If somebody asks, what is the path of Mahaprabhu? And Srila Prabhupada has mentioned so many places, it is about distribution of love of Godhead. So it's a path of love. In fact, this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is dedicated to Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Srila Prabhupada dedicates it to Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur has said that Mahaprabhu's movement is a movement of love. And in Mahaprabhu's Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that Saragrahi, there are two types of devotees, Saragrahi and Bharavahi. Saragrahi are those who are who go after the essence, who seek the essence. They are Saragrahi. And Bharavahi are those who actually are burden bearers. They bear the burden of calling themselves devotees, but they miss the finer essence of devotional service. So there are Bharavahis and there are Saragrahis. The Saragrahis are essence seekers. And Mahaprabhu's movement and his mood is to give the essence and not to criticize on the superficial. And we see Mahaprabhu met so many different personalities. He met, he didn't necessarily convert them. He didn't necessarily take a very hard stand on things. For example, when he met Venkat Bhatt in Sri Rangam, he did not convert Venkat Bhatt. In fact, he said, I am very happy with your devotional service. Same with Murari Gupta. He didn't force Murari Gupta to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Murari Gupta is Hanuman in the spiritual world. He could not chant. He could only chant names of Ram. He did not force him. So Mahaprabhu also, we see he met in Sarnath, he met the Buddhist. Very lovingly, he converted the Buddhist through the pastime of, through logic and argument, and then a loving argument. And then finally, we see how that the Buddhists, they conspire to give Mahaprabhu some unoffered food. And then the bird comes and throws away the plate, and the Buddhist gets hurt on his head and faints. So he didn't convert forcibly, but he changed their views in a loving manner. We also see that even actually there is one literature called Chaitanya Bhagavad by Ishwara Das, and that is in Orissa. It's written in Odia. So that is a Odia commentary of the life of Lord Chaitanya, biography of the life of Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya. So that Ishwara Das, he says in his Chaitanya Bhagavad that Mahaprabhu even met Guru Nanak of the Sikh faith. And there was an exchange between Guru Nanak and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were contemporary. So we find Mahaprabhu even met. So Buddhist, Mayavadis, Prakashanand Saraswati and his 60,000 disciples. In fact, next session, next chapter in the book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is about Prakashanand Saraswati. So I will not, go into too much detail. But Prakashanand Saraswati, so Mayavadi, Buddhist, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in South India, he met with Jains. He met with, when he was going from Vrindavan back to Puri, along with 4 associates, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, his assistant. Then there was Rajput Krishnadas. He was a Rajput from Rajasthan originally. And there was one Sanodia Brahman. These 4 were going with Mahaprabhu on the way back to Puri. And on the way, Mahaprabhu heard a beautiful flute being played by a cowherd, cowherd men. Immediately thinking of Krishna, Mahaprabhu fainted. When he fainted, being overwhelmed with the love for Lord, he fainted. The four associates, they started to fan him and tried to revive him. He could not be revived. At that time, a troop of Pathan soldiers, Pathan are Afghans, and they were soldiers deputed by the Mughal army or the Mughal chiefs. So the Pathan soldiers, they were passing, and they thought that these four were actually plunderers, thieves, and they had given some kind of, they used to, there was a plant called datura, which if you smell that, you become unconscious. So the Pathans thought that these four are thieves, Mahaprabhu's associates, and they're trying to loot this man. So they caught hold of these four and were going to, punish them. At that time, Mahaprabhu somehow revived. And when Mahaprabhu revived, he said, "Oh, these are my associates. They are not thieves. And please leave them." And then the Pathan said, "Well, but you had fainted." And Mahaprabhu said, "I fainted because of epilepsy." He said, Mrugi is kind of epilepsy. So, Mrugi Vyadhira, Mahaprabhu says, because of this epilepsy, I fainted. So please forgive them. And then this Pathan said that, "Oh, but you look like a saint." As soon as he said that, Mahaprabhu grabbed that opportunity and started talking about the Quran with this Pathan. And the Pathan said, "Well, the Quran says the Lord is impersonal." Mahaprabhu said, "Well, if he's impersonal, then why does Quran say that Allah will accept you with open arms? What is the question of having arms?" And then Mahaprabhu also gave so many. I've given a class once at the Manor about all of these references. But Mahaprabhu also ultimately proved that in the Quran, Krishna, Allah, is mentioned as Shyama Kalebara, one who is dark form. So again, this was Mahaprabhu's explanation to the Mughal Pathan soldier. And the Pathan soldier ultimately accepted it. And Mahaprabhu initiated him there and then and gave him a name Ramdas. So Mahaprabhu also met all of the four sampradayas. In fact, we see that Nimbarka Sampradaya, Acharya of Nimbar, the 29th Acharya of Nimbarka Sampradaya is Keshav Kashmiri. We all know how Mahaprabhu lovingly converted Keshav Kashmiri. Then in South India, Venkata Bhatta and Gopala Bhatta Goswami came from that family. Gopala Bhatta Goswami, originally Venkat Bhatta is of Ramanuja Sampradaya. And Mahaprabhu stayed there and he interacted with them. And he discussed how even Lakshmi Devi wants to take shelter of the Rasa Leela. And hence the Lord Krishna is superior to Narayan form of the Lord. And then he met the Madhvites, whom in Chaitanya Charitamrita they are referred to as Tattvavadis. They were, the chief Madhvite had a very nice cordial discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very lovingly made him accept that actually superior than Vishnu is the Supreme Lord Krishna. And also, so the fourth is Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya. So we see Nimbarka Sampradaya, Keshav Kashmiri, Ramanuja Sampradaya, Venkata Bhatta, Madhva Sampradaya, the Madhvites of Udupi, and Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya, Shripad Vallabhacharya. He met Mahaprabhu in Puri and he had loving exchange with Mahaprabhu in Puri. In fact, Mahaprabhu says in the Antya Leela, it is said, "Prabhu ko hai tumi pandita mahabhagavat dui guna jahata nahi garva parvata." Mahaprabhu has said that you are Mahabhagavat to Vallabhacharya and you are a great scholar also, Pandit also, together. So you should not be proud. And he lovingly had an exchange. In fact, Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, at the end of the first wave, he says that some philosophers, some Vaishnava philosophers, they call Raganuga Bhakti as Pushti Marg. So Rupa Goswami and Vallabhacharya were great friends. So you see that Mahaprabhu lovingly exchanged. He had loving exchanges with all of these personalities, and he very gently converted them to his view. And in fact, not only he converted them to his view, he embraced the good qualities from them. So from Madhva Sampradaya, Mahaprabhu accepted three things: two principles which we follow and one philosophical principle. Two things he accepted from Madhva Sampradaya: Kebala Advaita Nirasana. Kevala Advaita Nirasana means to refute Mayavad philosophy. Madhvas are best at that because Dvaita philosophy they follow. So he accepted that. Second, he accepted Krishna Murti Sevana, how to worship the Supreme Lord and to completely dedicate one's life as per the scriptures. That is what he took from Madhva. Two things: worship of the deities and refuting Mayavad. And the philosophical point he took from the Madhvas: Satchidananda Nitya Vigraha, that the Supreme Lord is Satchidananda Vigraha. That philosophical, he accepted that from Madhva. From Ramanuja Sampradaya, he accepted two things: Ananya Bhakti, the importance of unalloyed devotion without any upadhi, sarvopadhi vinirmukta. Yeah, that he accepted from Ramanuja, Ananya Bhakti. And second, he accepted Bhakta Jana Seva, Vaishnav Seva. How do you serve devotees? That he accepted from Ramanuja. And the philosophical point he accepted from Ramanuja was Shakti Siddhanta. Shakti Siddhanta meaning Parasa Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. The different Shaktis of the Lord, the categorization that we have in Gaudiya philosophy is broadly speaking aligned to how Ramanuja categorizes it. Then from Vishnu Swami Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, he accepted two things: Tadiya Sarvasva Bhava, complete dependence on the Supreme Lord, complete dependence on Krishna. So, as Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So that he took from Vallabhacharya Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Second, Raga Marga, spontaneous devotional service. Raganuga Bhakti is a gift of Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya. And the philosophical principle he accepted was Shuddha Dvaita Siddhanta, which is in the pure state, there is no difference between us and the Supreme in quality, but there is a difference in quantity. So qualitative non-difference he accepted from that Shuddha Dvaita philosophy accepted from Vallabhacharya. In fact, if you read Vallabhacharya's works, you find many parallels of analogies. For example, the analogy Mahaprabhu uses about the fire and the sparks being the jivas and fire being the supreme Brahman. The same analogy is originally found in Vallabhacharya's works. Similarly, in works of Jiva Goswami, you find references of Ramanuja's works, or in works of Baldev Vidyabhushan, you find references of Madhva's work. Of course, Baldev Vidyabhushan was of Madhva Sampradaya originally. So, but we see all of this has been accepted. In the fourth Sampradaya, Nimbarka, he accepted two things. Number one, Ekanta Radhika Ashraya, the shelter of Srimati Radharani, because that's the only one of the four Sampradayas that accepts Srimati Radharani as supreme. And then number two, he accepted Gopi Bhav, which is the exalted mood of the gopis. And gopis being the highest devotees. This he accepted from Nimbarka Sampradaya. And the philosophical point he accepted from Nimbarka Sampradaya was Nitya Dvaita Advaita Siddhanta. Eternally, we are different and same at the same time. The jiva is the same and at the same time different. So these four he accepted, four philosophical principles, and these these 8 practices. So the 8 practices and the 4 philosophical principles were accepted from these 4 sampradayas. So Mahaprabhu had these loving exchanges. In fact, we find that not only in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but other literatures, other biographies also, we find how Mahaprabhu had all of these loving exchanges, loving interactions with the different groups which were existing in the medieval times when Mahaprabhu was around. So there are 7 biographies. And these biographies of Mahaprabhu, the first and the oldest biography is actually notes. Kadacha. Kadacha means notes. They are notes written by Murari Gupta. And they are written in Sanskrit. Murari Gupta was a very learned personality. He composed in Sanskrit. It's a biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But in that, Murari Gupta identifies Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Vishnu. He does not say that Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna. Now one may wonder why. Well, of course, Murari Gupta is Hanuman. So his vision, his realization is only limited to that sphere. We don't say limited, but his realization and his explanations or his access, let's say, is to that level of understanding that Supreme Lord, that Mahaprabhu is non-different from Ramachandra and Krishna and Vishnu. He doesn't say Krishna, he says Vishnu and Vishnu avatars. The next biographer is Vrindavan Das Thakur. See, Murari Gupta also mainly wrote about Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes, where Mahaprabhu also exhibited only qualities like that of Vishnu. Vrindavan Das Thakur, the second biographer, has written Chaitanya Bhagavat. Originally, it was called Chaitanya Mangal. Later on, was called Chaitanya Bhagavat. So Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat is the earliest Bengali biography of Mahaprabhu. And in that, Vrindavan Das Thakur, because he is Vyasadeva in the spiritual world, so Vyas, being the Vyas of Chaitanya Bhagavat, he has identified Lord Chaitanya with all the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. Then there is a biography which is not considered to be authorized by most of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We don't find Bhaktivedanta Thakur or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accept that. The third, which is quite old, but it is Jayananda Thakur's Chaitanya Mangal. Jayananda Thakur. So in his Chaitanya Mangal also he identifies Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna. It is only next biographer is Kavi Karnapur. He has written 2 biographies. One is, the original biography is called Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakavya. In that, for the first time, he identifies Mahaprabhu as Krishna, and Krishna having these 5 tattvas. Panchatattvatmakam Krishna. That is the first time we find that in Kavi Karnapur's Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakavya. And then in Kavi Karnapur's 10-act play, which is called Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natakam. It's also in Sanskrit. There, in act number 3, Kavi Karnapur explains how Mahaprabhu is experiencing the mood of Srimati Radharani. The next biographer, 6th, Lochan Das Thakur. In his Chaitanya Mangal, we find for the first time that, see, Lochan Das Thakur is disciple of Narahari. So, of course, he is taking the mood of his spiritual master. So, Lochan Das Thakur in Chaitanya Mangal, he explains how Mahaprabhu has the sweet Madhurya Bhava. But it is only and only in Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita that the conclusion has been opened up. The secret has been opened that Mahaprabhu is non-different from Radha and Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Hiranya, he is one. 2 personalities in one. Of course, we find Kaviraj Goswami is able to give us this because he is Kasturi Manjari. He is a Manjari in the spiritual world, so he can see the union. And how do we know he's Kasturi Manjari? We know it's Kasturi Manji because in Dhyana Chandra Goswami's work we find in Govindacharan Smaran Paddhati. Dhyana Chandra Goswami says that Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is Kasturi Manjari, who is a close associate of, well, who follows the line of Rupa Manjari, Lalita Sakhi, and Srimati Radharani. So we know. So we find now we may wonder, where is the original information of Panchatattva coming, and where is the original information of Mahaprabhu being Radha Krishna? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from the realization of Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami? The answer is no. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami attributes the Panchatattva, the Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam, this verse. In fact, Kavi Karnapur attributes it to Swarup Damodar, and Swarup Damodar was a personal associate of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, constant associate. And in fact, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, again we find chapter 4, verse 55. We find Srila Prabhupada has given the comment in this purport very beautifully. He says that this verse is the original verse from Swarup Damodar. And what is that verse? It says, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmanau Api Bhuvipura Deha Bhedam Gatautau. Radha Krishna previously were separate entities. They have now become one. Swarup Damodar says, Chaitanyakhyam Prakataduna Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptam. Now he is known as Lord Chaitanya. Aduna, now Prakatam, he has manifested. Chaitanyakhyam, in the form of Chaitanya, he is known as Chaitanya. Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam. He has in fact covered himself with the mood of Radharani. That is Lord Chaitanya. So we find, even actually somebody may argue that why this mood is not exemplified in his childhood pastimes. Why does Vrindavan Das Thakur not mention about Mahaprabhu's mood as Radharani? Actually, there are glimpses of that. If you read Chaitanya Bhagavat in Madhya Leela chapter 18 of Chaitanya Bhagavat, we find wonderful verses. Once Mahaprabhu, he as a child, he participated in a play. And in that play, he enacted the role of Lakshmi Devi, the consort of Narayan. And when he dressed up as Lakshmi Devi, the audience could not believe that this is Mahaprabhu, not just in his look, in his appearance, but even in his mood, his expression, the way he was acting. So this is identified. This episode is spoken at great length by Vrindavan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavat, that when Mahaprabhu assumed the form of Lakshmi Devi, that is when Mahaprabhu, even as a child, was in his true element. He says, Henai Samaye Sarva Prabhura Vishwambhara Pravesha Korilo Adya Shakti Beshadhara. When Mahaprabhu appeared as Adya Shakti, when he appeared as Lakshmi Devi on the stage, Kiba Mahalakshmi Kiba Ailo Parvati Kiba Vrindabaner Sampati Murti Mati. Although all the entire audience were wondering, who has just entered on stage? Is it Mahalakshmi from the spiritual world personally? Is it Parvati Devi? Is it Radharani herself? This is the first time where there is some information that Radharani, Mahaprabhu as Radharani in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Adbhuta Gopika Nritya Chari Veda Dhana. And then Mahaprabhu started dancing like a gopi. And seeing that dance of Mahaprabhu as gopi, the audience absolutely fainted. And Vrindavan Das Thakur says, Adbhuta Gopika Nritya Chari Veda Dhana. The dancing of Mahaprabhu in the mood of a gopi is greater than the wealth of the four Vedas. And he says, anyone who hears this pastime, Krishna Bhakti Hoya Iha, Korilo Shravana. If you hear these pastimes of Mahaprabhu's dancing as a gopi in his childhood, dressed up in this drama as a Lakshmi Devi, we will get Krishna Bhakti. So we find this in Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat. But this is as far as he goes. In fact, he says, Krishna anugraha jare, sei marma jane. Only if you have the anugraha, the mercy of the Lord, then you can understand the real tattva of Mahaprabhu. I will end by saying that in the Narottam Vilas, Narhari Chakravarti has given a beautiful pastime to establish how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, how he appeared and why he appeared. I'll make it very quick, 2 minutes. Once the Lord Krishna was with Srimati Radharani, and he told Srimati Radharani, give me something very special. Radharani said, what she just with her raised eyebrows, and looking at Krishna, she asked, what do you want? She didn't even use her words. And Krishna said, well, the most special thing you possess is your love for me. Give me that. Srimati Radharani said, well, my love will be too heavy for you. You will not be able to carry it. Krishna said, no, I want it. And at that time, Lalita Sakhi intervened. She is always very protective of Radharani. She intervened and she said, yes, Krishna, this love of Srimati Radharani is very heavy for you. You will not be able to accept it. Not only is it heavy, there is another problem. This love of Srimati Radharani, whenever you are away from her, her love is like blazing hot sun or like blazing fire. It burns her body. And even when we put sandalwood on her body, the sandalwood peels off like dry paper. So she burns in the fire of separation. So this love is very, very difficult for you to get, Krishna. Krishna says, no, I want it. I cannot live without tasting the nectar of this love of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani tells Krishna, sure, you can accept this love of mine, but your soft body, Krishna, will not be able to take the separation that you feel, that I feel from you. So when you have accepted this love of mine in you, you will experience the separation I feel from you. And when you experience that separation, in that separation, you will jump, you will dance, and you will faint and you will fall. And when you faint and fall, your soft body will get hurt. So not only accept my love, but also accept my golden body, which on top of your blackish, beautiful form. And my golden body will protect you. So Mahaprabhu's golden body. And then in Narottam Vilas, we find Narhari Chakravarti, he says that this is the notion of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, according to Rupa and Raghunath. That Gauranga Mahaprabhu has this golden body of Srimati Radharani, but he is Krishna, carrying that love of Srimati Radharani, experiencing that separation, experiencing what Srimati Radharani experiences. So I will stop here and I will take any questions or comments or corrections. Please let me know. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This was very wonderful. Unbelievable how much knowledge and how many shastras you know and can combine them so nicely with the Leelas. So we have one question from Roberto Prabhu. He asks, Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in devotee form to show what devotee means. How to properly follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example?
Is that a question or is that a comment?
Yeah, the question is, how can we properly follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example as a devotee?
How can we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example as a devotee? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example as a devotee, well, Mahaprabhu himself answers that question by telling us what are the 64 items of devotional service that we should follow. It's given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the top 5 things that anyone who claims to be a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should follow. 5 things are always chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Number 1. Number 2, studying Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Number 3, worshipping the deities of Radha and Krishna with faith, lovingly and with faith. Number 4, serving the Dham, serving the holy Dham. And number 5, serving the Vaishnavas. These 5 are the essential instructions. Anyone who claims to be a Gaudiya Vaishnava but does not do these 5, they are factually not a Gaudiya Vaishnava. These are not my words, these are words of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one place. So this is how we can follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, we should read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and see how Mahaprabhu interacted with various personalities. And we should try to learn from his example. Chaitanya Charitamrita, so book Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam is book Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita speaks about person Bhagavatam, is exemplification of a person Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam in action is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimad Bhagavatam in action. Okay.
Thank you very much. Very nice point. Yeah. I had a question concerning Srivas Thakur. So we say Srivas Adi, right? So does it mean he's the first devotee? And if so, like, why is it Srivas? Why is it Narada Muni that is the first devotee? Can you maybe a little bit elaborate on it?
Yeah. First of all, Adi here means etc. Adi has 2 meanings. In Bengali, in Gujarati, Hindi, Sanskrit, Punjabi, so many languages. Adi, when it is used as a word independently, it means beginning, or when it comes in a word at the beginning. So Adi Purusha, which means first person. Adi, in fact, in Russian, the word Adi is there in Russian, Oden, which is first, number 1. Yeah. So Adi means number 1. But that is Adi as a word in itself, or Adi when you put it as a compound word at the beginning. But when you put the word Adi at the end, it means etc., more and more. Yeah. So here the meaning is Srivas Adi is Narad Muni, etc. It's not first Narad Muni. No. Next
Okay.
question.
So in connection with that, thank you very much. So why Narada Muni?
Why Narad Muni? Oh, Narada Muni is considered to be the personality who instigated meaning who sowed the seed for Srimad Bhagavatam in the heart of Vyasadeva. So Narad Muni is considered to be foremost amongst all worshipable rishis. That is why he is known as Devarshi. That is why he is foremost amongst all the rishis. Yeah. And he is first. In that sense, he is mentioned as Narada. And Srivas is Narada himself. Yeah. Next.
Beautiful. Thank you. There was a question that I had for a long time. Thank you so much. So we have some more questions. One from Mina. We have to read first Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Well, Srila Prabhupada answers that question. It is Srimad Bhagavatam. That must be, well, even before we read Bhagavatam, we read the small books of Srila Prabhupada. And actually, it's not just reading. It's absorbing. It's understanding, absorbing, and following, putting in practice. So Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita. Having said that, one can always read, if one is eager to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, one can always read teachings of Lord Chaitanya. If one is eager to hear Krishna Katha, as in pure 10th canto Katha, one can always read Krishna book. But to truly understand, to truly appreciate the exemplification of Srimad Bhagavatam in the personality of Mahaprabhu, one has to study Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita becomes really, really sweet, because you can actually comprehend and you can actually relate how Mahaprabhu is exemplifying everything that is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is why Srimad Bhagavatam has to be approached first. But it doesn't mean that we don't listen to Chaitanya Charitamrita. It does not mean that we don't read teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or we don't attend Chaitanya Charitamrita classes. It doesn't mean that. It means in our personal study, we have to study these books in a systematic fashion, because systematically the conception of the Supreme will evolve in our consciousness, and systematically will purify our heart.
Right, thank you. Wonderful elaboration. Then we have one last question from Nitai Mata Devidasi. She asks, Hare Krishna Prabhu, most devotees worship Nitai Gaur, not Radha Krishna, as all cannot meet with standards. So is that okay?
Of course, Gaur Nitai are so merciful that they don't need very high standards, because their mood is Audarya. Audarya means full of compassion, and there is not many hard and fast rules in worshipping Gaur Nitai. So one should always worship Gaur Nitai. And as far as worshipping Radha Krishna is concerned, one should be very, very careful not to invite Radha Krishna at home unless one is able to maintain proper standards, because Radha Krishna worship does need proper standards to be followed by all members of the household, not just the person who worships. And that is a little difficult. So it is perfect to worship Gaur Nitai, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Really an amazing class, inspiring, and makes us appreciate how wonderful Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is and his philosophy is. And yeah, cannot wait for him to appear soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samved Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
His praise Kartik Chandra Prabhu ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai. Thank you.